Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Audio Advice live streaming giveaway, where today we're joined by some of our good friends to talk about Wharfedale. So before we get into introductions, got a really exciting announcement. We've got a brand new showroom opening up in, well, let's see, a couple days officially, but we're announcing it today. It's our brand new Miami location. So if you're in Miami, you are in luck. You're going to have an Audio Advice location near you. And we also have our Las Vegas opening up here, TBD, but it's announced. So get excited, get out there and check them out. We also have in about 40 some days, my team keeps reminding me, Audio Advice Live. And so you're going to see some of these guys there. So make sure you come out. Actually, I think we'll see all of you guys there. But anyway, make sure you come out to that. We're going to have a promo coming up for our tickets that's going to end at midnight. But I think that's for 50% off of tickets. So if you're on the fence about getting them, go ahead and grab them. So we'll do that. So without further ado, let's go ahead and kick this all off. We'll start off with some introductions. So Josh, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, I'm Josh with MoFi. I do a lot of the sales and in marketing with MoFi. Been with them for a few years now, but I've been in this industry for, next year will be my 20th year. So I've had a lot of jobs, and I still love this stuff. And yeah, audio's great.
I agree. And we like to start it off with a kind of a fun question. The audience, feel free to participate in this. So Josh, what's your favorite road trip song or album? I'll leave
I'm a big Black Crowes fan. The Southern blues rock and roll is my jam. So I'm gonna go with a classic, "Hard to Handle" by the Black Crowes. Can't beat that one. Never get sick of it.
Hey, I approve. Somebody in the chat said anything Radiohead. I think I might fall asleep. I dig it. I dig it nonetheless.
Yeah.
John, you want to tell us who you are?
Hey, I'm John Durda with MoFi Distribution. I run sales and marketing for our company. We've been doing this about 12 years now. Wharfedale is one of the first brands that we started importing and distributing 12 years ago. We do other great brands like MoFi Electronics, Music Hall, Quad, Leak, Solid Steel. There's probably 20 brands. I'm not going to list them all. And I've been in the audio industry my whole life. My dad owned a hi-fi shop, started working for him in 1992 and haven't stopped.
That's awesome. So same question for you. What's your favorite road trip song and or album?
My Spotify Wrapped was kind of depressing this year. It said I am equivalent to a 70-year-old man. So my go-to would be Radar Love by Golden Earring.
Yep.
Hard Not to Speed to that song, or anything Red Hot Chili Peppers to bring it up a little bit. Those would be my go-to on my road trip playlist.
I feel that my my Spotify was at 83 years old because
Wow.
I listened to a lot of really old bluegrass, so it skews it. But anyway, well, awesome pick. And last but not least, the man who barely needs an introduction, Mr. Randy. How you doing today?
Good. How are you guys doing? Doing well?
Good.
Everyone's looking healthy. The
Semi.
mustache is full.
Semi. But
what's the secret to that, Nick? Is it creatine and lots of protein?
So fruits, vegetables, 16 Waterloos a day.
Yeah.
And it'll get you there.
Dozen glazed donuts every morning.
Yeah. Yep, and the aviators. But so for those of you, or the audience that don't know you, tell us who you are.
Me? I'm Randy.
Yeah.
I have a YouTube channel called The Cheap Audio Man. On Instagram, MySpace. You can find me.
Yeah, Tumblr.
Cheap Audio Man.
Well, so same question goes for you. What is your favorite road trip song or album?
It's Radar Love by Tesla. Don't you remember in the 80s Tesla redid Radar Love?
I did not realize they redid it.
They covered it. Oh my goodness. That's a deep cut if you don't know that joke. Now I like I listen to Pete Townsend for some reason. There's a song, Let Your Love Something Come Over You. It was off the Grosse Pointe Blank soundtrack. For whatever reason, whenever that song comes on, I've just been listening. Like I can't not listen to the whole thing. So that's got to be it.
Well, I feel it,
Strange.
man.
That's strange. I know.
I like Pete Townsend.
Yeah.
So, and for those of you who don't know me, my name is Nick. I do a little bit of everything, but typically home theater design and hosting this live stream. So glad to be here today. And my album, well, I'm actually going to do a full album for Road Trip, and it's going to be Sound and Fury by Sturgill Simpson. I think it's one of the best driving albums out there. So a lot of fun. Listen to it. But we are here today not to discuss my favorite album, but rather to discuss Wharfedale. So, John, you guys have a new product out, and I kind of want you to just give us a quick rundown of it because it is going to be our giveaway. One of the items going to be a giveaway product, or I guess a few of them. So, why don't you tell us a bit about the lineup and what we're giving away?
Yeah, I think we're giving away some Wharfedale Diamond 12i. So major giveaway is a full Wharfedale home theater package with the 12.4i floor standers, which, Nick, you have in your room there, the matching center channel, the 3DI surround channel speakers, which can be mounted on wall or put on top of the speaker for height channels, and 12.2 bookshelf speakers for surround. So pretty major giveaway.
Well, very cool. And so, yeah, we're going to be giving those away at the end. So in the meantime, this is a Q&A platform. So if you guys have any questions about Wharfedale or this line, go ahead and pop them in the chat. We're going to be answering questions for about the next 55 minutes or so. So feel free to go ahead and pop your questions in. And then we actually have a prize for the best question as well. So John, do you want to tell us what these are for the best question?
Yeah, so for the best question, you're getting the Baby Diamond 12.0i 4-inch two-way bookshelf speaker. This is the closest modern day version to the original Wharfedale Diamond speaker, which was introduced in 1982. Don't let its small size fool you. This is, I shouldn't say this, but this may be my favorite model in the line. There's just something so good about a little two-way bookshelf loudspeaker that sounds way bigger than it looks.
Well, very cool. Yeah, that's so far I've gotten to play with the lineup, or at least the 12.4s here, and I've been absolutely impressed with them for the price point. Phenomenal. But I'll save some of my opinions as we go on. But we've got some questions popping in, so I guess let's just jump into them. So Timothy Brown here says, could you explain the sonic differences, i.e. pros and cons of using a small stand-mounted speaker like the 12.2i's out in the room versus a wall-mounted speaker like the 12.3di's in a multi-channel setup? I'm thinking in the surround channels, although depending on the size, it could be the front channels as well.
Cool. Well, Diamond 12 3DI can be mounted on the wall. You're going to get some benefit from the wall reinforcement, so it'll sound a little bit bigger, but ultimately you're going to get a lot more sound out of 12.2i. A lot more deep bass response. It's a ported loudspeaker. It sounds relatively full range on its own, where 3DI, you're going to be crossing that over pretty high, probably around 100 hertz, really relying on your subwoofer to flush out that lower mid-range. So if you can, I'd go with a 12.2, but not every space accommodates that, so 12.3 could be a great solution.
Yeah. And so whenever you say wall mounted, where's the port on those in order to be wall mounted? Is it still in the back?
Man, don't ask me these specific questions.
Oh, sorry.
I don't know the answers
I'm putting
to.
you right here on the spot, man.
A 12.3, I believe the on wall, it's got like a hidden port in the terminal section, but it's been a minute, honestly, since I've handled one of those.
Yeah, I was trying to see where, I don't know if it's a sealed cabinet or not. Yeah, because that's one of the things that we get all the time is talking about speaker placement inside the room, which I'm sure we'll probably end up diving into ultimately.
Also, your sound stage will be a little flat if you have the 3Ds and you're using those instead of a 12i, which can come in your room a little bit. So you're going to get a little more of a two-dimensional sound as opposed to, the potential for a more 3D sound stage.
Yeah.
If you want a really huge 3D sound stage, you need to get yourself a nice high quality pair of Wharfedale Dentons. The blue ones. The blue ones give you extra soundstage and imaging.
Yeah, the 1S's. I've been really excited about those since they came out. And so, I'm gonna make this question, Michael, I'm gonna change your question up a little bit. So first we'll start off with the Diamond series, and then I want to kind of go over into some of the Denton series. So how do these speakers lean, in your opinion? MoFi team. Are they warm, bright? A little bit about the sound signature.
Wharfedale definitely leans warm, right?
Yeah, a little bit warmer. I would say the warmer side of neutral. But those new Dentons in particular, I was really impressed when we put them on a couple different amplifiers of how well they performed and how coherent they were. As in a lot of the other Wharfedale models, really good clean bass response, and they're very versatile. So I was very impressed with them.
Yeah, I mean, Randy's reviewed a ton of Wharfedales over the years. You've probably heard more speakers than even all of us have from different brands.
Well, Wharfedale depends. I mean, what was the one? It was right when the channel started, and they were on a ridiculous sale. 11 dot. It was like the Diamond 11 something series.
Yeah, right. Yeah, with the rounded cabinets.
Yeah, and they were one of the warmest speakers I've ever heard in my life. But as the Diamond series has kind of moved forward and been iterated, it's really moved more neutral rather than anything else. But they're also pretty transparent. So if you have a warmer amplifier, it's going to kind of take on the sound of the amplifier too. So that's one of the things I love about the Diamonds is the latest generation, they're a little bit warm, but they really take on whatever electronics you have, and they scale up. If you have better electronics, you can really tell a difference with them. So very well behaved, very British, speaker, but if it has too many at the pub, it'll punch you in the face if it needs to. So it's well behaved, but it can get rowdy when you want it to.
Hey, we need that on a t-shirt. I mean, I kind of agree with the sentiment. So I was listening to the 12.4 eyes here, and it's one of those that's still detail rich. It's definitely, because a lot of people like to talk about a speaker being too warm, and it kind of sort of lacks some of that detail and texture, which I really appreciate for home theater, just because dialogue clarity is hugely important. And if a speaker's too warm, you may not get some of that semblance on there. So these so far have been very detail oriented without being overly harsh. And I also test how harsh something is with a harmonica. Like you throw on some Bob Dylan, throw on some Free Willin', and see if it's going to shred your ears or not. And it definitely doesn't. So I think they hit a good balance. I've been really happy with them. So let's go down here. And this is something that I think we could turn into a more general topic. So what power needs for these towers?
Wharfedales aren't super power hungry. They're not like the ultimate efficiency loudspeaker either. So, ballpark range, if you have 50 to 100 good watts of power, that's going to be plenty for most people.
Yeah. Yeah. And so with this, some people like to say, all right, I'm afraid I'm going to, especially in this kind of entry level line, they're like, I don't want to get too much power behind my speaker. So why don't you guys talk about, if it says 50 to 100 watts, what's going to end up happening if you put 150 or 200 watts into it? Well, just if you use an amplifier like that.
Well, most people aren't listening at 150 watts. I mean,
exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, probably 10 watts or under is what most people listen to. If that, probably 5 watts, really.
Yeah, they're getting that 150 watts on like peaks, which the speakers can handle just fine. And, I think your question is about how do you damage loudspeakers? It's generally by underpowering them. So if you're a person who likes to play really loud and you don't have enough power, your amplifier is going to clip. And that's generally what causes blown tweeters. I mean, that was a big deal back in the 90s. They used to use ferrofluids and all kinds of things to protect tweeters. I think with how robust speaker drivers are nowadays, it's become less common.
Yeah, and generally you'll get better low-level listening if you have more power available to you. So the speaker is getting more current to it. So when you're listening at a lower level, you're still getting a fuller range than if it's underpowered and you're cranking it up and having to kind of strain to hear it.
Yeah, and you definitely start to hear that distortion more, because that's one of the things that I get a lot of questions on sort of the entry-level side. Like, is this too much power for this speaker? You're like, okay, unless you're absolutely cranking the crap out of it, which you probably won't want to be in the room, it's not going to be a problem. So you should be totally fine.
Yeah.
So up next, can you explain the evolution of the clarity cone material? are there refinements in the 12.I or the 12i?
Yeah, so this was an interesting twist for Wharfedale. You know, generally Peter Como has been the shepherd of like every IAG brand, which is the parent company of Wharfedale, Quad, Leak, Mission, Audio Lab, and he's done an amazing job. When they introduced Diamond 12, they enlisted a designer named Karl-Heinz Fink, who's behind Epos loudspeakers, Q Acoustics. He's done a lot of like gun for hire work throughout the industry. Very good designer. And they wanted exactly what Randy was talking about with the evolution of Diamond, to get away from that really kind of warm, overly warm sound and add more transparency, more dynamics. And so they had Karl-Heinz Fink do this in the Clarity Cone material, which is a poly mica cone. So it's a polypropylene cone mixed with mica to give it some added stiffness. Really brought that clarity with a C up quite a bit. There's no refinements in the 12i series. So going to the I, it's kind of a half generation upgrade. They made improvements mostly in the crossover, cosmetically, getting away from, you know, bright materials like chrome trim rings, new matte paint finishes, and then also the porting. That was one, I think that's the biggest area of improvement, because these drivers can do really good bass impact. They had to really look at the turbulence coming out of the port and quiet that port down. And that's what the 12i series does. So you can now play these louder with less of that noise coming out of the port.
Yeah, I mean, the 12, the previous version, just the standard 12 was already such a very good sounding speaker that they didn't want to change it too much because it would lose the character of what made that speaker special. So they just kind of made some subtle improvements to the low end. And a lot of that was the port work that John was mentioning.
Awesome. And actually, Randy, I got one here for you because you're kind of in the middle of a little project.
Project, yeah.
So what is your best advice for someone just setting up a home theater system? What items should they invest in first?
Subwoofer. I mean, that's the biggest kind of like, and I'm not a sub guy, but I mean, the thing that I've kind of figured out is like, speakers are great. I mean, obviously you want a really solid center speaker. If you can match it to the fronts, that's great. But like, there's nothing that improves the immersion than like bass, a lot of it. So
Totally.
that's the problem, or that's the mistake that I've made early on was, you know, I would get awesome speakers and have everything matched up and then cheap out on my subwoofer. And, you know, I would rather have a really beefy sub and less expensive speakers than I put more money towards a subwoofer. I guess that would be kind of the takeaway. And then center, right, you know, center, left, and right is where I'd spend my money. Those in the sub. That's what I would do. But yeah, because there's not a ton of information coming out of your rears and your surrounds. There's stuff there, but you know, it's not as big of a deal, I don't think.
Yeah. Well, I think that you're only as good as your weakest link in a lot of these systems too. But you're right. Subwoofers, well, they're impacting every single speaker inside the room, especially in a theater type setup, because you're doing a crossover frequency. So it's going to be benefiting every single speaker. And then you have your LFE channel, which is really going to be, you know, that low frequency effects, pressurizing the room. And believe it or not, subwoofers help with soundstage just in general.
They do. They really do.
They give you a sense of spaciousness inside the room.
Yeah. Actually, Nick, I don't know if you can see it.
Oh, I see it blurred out and I already know what it is.
Yeah, it's a SVS in-wall, and I put them in all by myself. Let me tell you, that was a bit of an adventure too, because I found a pipe and some Romex where I thought I was going to put them. So,
hey, that's always fun. Hey, you never know what's behind the wall. Well, I mean, I guess some people have those fancy stud finders, but yeah, I don't invest in those, man. Sheetrock knife until you find something.
Yeah, just knock on it. Oh, right there.
That's
For anyone watching, Nick is not an audio device installer, so you don't.
I am not an audio device installer. Yeah, thank you, John, for clarifying that. I am the exact opposite, because I get too excited when I get equipment in my house, and I'm just like, hey, I'm cutting into the wall. But our team is far better than me, and that's why we got different job titles. So, John, do you agree with Randy's advice on the sub and the LCR?
Yeah, I mean, Randy's T-shirt. Look, I haven't had a home theater system at home for like 20 years. My kids are getting a little older, and honestly, I wanted them to watch the original Jurassic Park movie, so I ordered a surround system, got a subwoofer. Can you imagine watching when that T-Rex comes across with no subwoofer? It's like, what's the point, man? Like,
Yeah.
the immersion of surround channels is cool for sure. When you're watching Top Gun Maverick or movies like that, but man, you want to feel the impact. You have to have a good subwoofer or two good subwoofers, quite frankly, to really do that.
Yep. 100%. So yeah, these also have a matching center channel, which you guys have something new that I think we discussed on one of the live streams that we had. You guys launched a new center channel somewhat recently in the lineup. I was trying to see if I had a picture of it on here.
Yeah. So the last live stream we did together, we had Peter Como on, and we used that opportunity to guilt him a little bit to make a matching Heritage Series center channel. And we engaged the audience. Thank you, people in the comments who were stoked about a Linton type center channel.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it came out just a couple of months ago, and that was all prompted from an Audio Advice live stream, which is really cool.
Yeah, we
Cool.
pestered him just enough to be able to do it. I was so excited whenever John said that. I was like, this is gonna be huge.
How big is it?
It's not small.
It's not small. I got to play with it a little bit. We've got a video on it. Our team's gonna link it in the comments here. But yeah, I mean, it's you guys have no sense of scale, but about like that, about like that, about like that. No.
Bigger than a bread box. Is it like based off of the Super Linton or just the Linton?
It's kind of a amalgamation of all the best of the Heritage design, because they have the Super Denton, which has that soft dome range. So it's actually using that dome mid range with the tweeter above it. So you get a proper center channel configuration. Most tweeters are like mid range, or centers are mid range tweeter mid range. You get some weird phase issues with that. So it's a true 3-way center channel, but it's voiced to match the whole Heritage range. I saw somebody asking about timber matching. So it will match anything in the Heritage series.
Yeah, that's a much needed line. But this one has the Diamond series has a matching center already. So I assume it's the same like MTM design as the remaining line. So
yeah, to keep the Diamond series small, since typically Diamond systems are going in smaller spaces, that is a more traditional center channel configuration. And then in Vienna, since we're talking subwoofers, I hope I'm not breaking like a non-disclosure, but I think it's public since it was at Vienna. Wharfedale is currently developing matching subwoofers for both the Heritage and Diamond series right now, which will be available later this year.
Ooh, well, that's extra exciting.
Oh man, that's a good looking center channel.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, this is the center here. Those look like, I think those are 6.5-inch woofers. Yes. So 6.5-inch woofers, a 2-inch soft dome mid, and a 1-inch soft dome tweeter. So we were one of the first to get to review this, and our team has sang nothing but praises about it. But the subwoofer, all right, I'm going to have to see if we can get a picture of the subwoofer in here, and our team will have to pop it up on the screen. But that's really exciting, John. Do you know what size of sub it is, or is it just?
I better not say anymore.
All right.
I'm not sure if I was supposed to say that.
All right. So John's got a knock on the door right now. So hope you get to keep your job, John.
It's all good.
It is a significant improvement over what they currently offer. That's as much as I'm comfortable saying.
That works for me. So got another question.
Now we're in it together, Josh. So that's great.
Sorry to bait you guys into that. But hey, it's the benefit of the live stream. We may cut it out whenever we post the final version. Who knows? But so would the sound dispersion improve if I kept the grills on the new Diamond series, same as the Wharfedale Heritage line? I like this question.
Yeah, on Diamond, removing the grills is going to get you the best sound. All grills cause diffraction, right? So you're not going to get the best sound with grills on. Now, the counterexample of that is Wharfedale's Heritage line. Because they have that lip around the front baffle of the speaker with the cabinet, they actually designed the grills specifically for that diffraction, and they sound best with grills on. So, as always, refer to your manual. I think Wharfedale's not the only brand that maybe recommends grills on or off. So, Diamond Series grills off for sure. Heritage Series grills on.
Very cool. Yeah, I'm a grills off kind of guy, just in general. For most speakers, especially these, because you can kind of see it's got like a little trim around around the woofers, and so it kind of adds a nice like metallic color to that. So I think it looks really nice. The grills on, I was like, they don't have as much personality as the Heritage line. The Heritage line, the grills are really pretty on them. Because I tried out the Super Dentons. I had them in my house for a little while. I didn't want to give them back, and they look really good with the grills on. They sound great.
Yeah, and for those that aren't aware and have Lintons or Super Lintons, there are also gray grills available now for them. So if they want even more of a classic Wharfedale look, they can get the gray grills.
So, Randy, are you a grill guy, or I think that your background might answer my question?
No, so I like woofers. I like the speaker. I like to see it. There's something about it that just so actually you can't see it very well now, but so the in-wall subs, they come with a magnetic grill, and I was painting them, and then like I did all this slat wall, which made me want to jump off a bridge. But anyway, so I framed out the sub in the slat wall, and I mean it's just so cool looking, because you see those big beefy woofers. So anyway, I grills off for me, always grills off.
Yeah, John, are you for most speakers that you get your hands on, you grills on or grills off?
I'm usually a grills off kind of guy.
Josh, I suspect you're the same.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I've ever left the grills on any of the speakers I've had over the years. So off, and keep them off. Put them in the box. Don't mess them up.
I know I've got I've got like a sectional sofa over here that like lifts up, and it's got a little storage compartment. It's just full of speaker grills, which these were now added to the collection for now. And yeah, I can't imagine keeping on there unless you got like kids that are gonna be poking them or whatever. But
Yeah, I'll put them
otherwise-
on sometimes if the kids have friends over or something. But for the most part, I have a stack of grills in the office that is a big stack. It's a big stack of grills.
So here's a fun. What speakers does the Wharfedale crew here today use at home?
That's a good. John loves these questions.
No, it's almost embarrassing, man. I mean, I have a large collection of speakers. Right now, I've been listening to a vintage speaker. Shout out to John Atkinson from Stereophile, who just retired. I was able, after many years of bothering him, to convince him to buy his Bowers & Wilkins silver signature speakers that he reviewed in like the 1990s. And I'd always wanted a pair of those. This was like a John Bowers anniversary edition speaker, all silver components. And back in the day, they were like $8,000 a pair, which was ridiculous for a bookshelf speaker in the 90s. It's kind of common today. That's my daily driver right now, but it changes all the time.
Yeah, Josh, what do you got? Well, you're currently in a hotel, but
yeah, my daily driver right now, and has been for a long time because I just love them, is a pair of Sonus Faber Ellipsa SEs in the red violin finish. They work really well.
You've had those a long time.
Had those a long time, but I'm a sucker for a really good two-way. I just love a really good two-way, and I've had a number of them over the years, but there's something very special about the Ellipsa SEs.
very cool. Yeah, right now, you guys see what I'm driving. See, if I put something in my office, I'm going to listen to it 10 times more, even if it's completely behind me. I'll just find myself spinning back around. But I've been listening to these. The rest of it's all in my theater, where I've got the Rebel Beryllium series. But things constantly switch out, come and go. And
Totally.
Randy, what have you been listening to lately?
Well, I got the Klipsch Fortes here, and then over in the corner you can't see them. I kind of switch them out. Emotiva came out with a new kind of retro speaker, big three-way with mid-range tweet or two. So those are in the corners. Downstairs, I have the new sevens from Klipsch. But I have a cadre, group of speakers that never leave the house. Wharfedale Linton, not the Super Linton, but the previous Linton, are behind this door here. And then I like Q Acoustics. They have their 5000 series, really good. So I have the 5020s that kind of come play. Oh, so does Faber. Lumina 2 Amateurs, the little bookshelf speaker. Those are pretty good too.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's see the curse of like being able to try things is I constantly want to keep bringing them home, and then I realize I have to ship it back, which is never fun. Which you guys pulled the last set of Wharfedales from me. I tried to ask my rep if I could buy them off, and I was like, you know what, I don't need another set of speakers. The rest, my guest room is slowly becoming a graveyard full of boxes. So I was like, I'm going to keep it for a little while. But let's see, we got some other questions here. So this one kind of, John, you probably know this one better than I do. Will you ever reintroduce your panel line of speakers?
Well, I'm not sure what he's referring to in the Wharfedale range as a panel. If he's talking about like the old sand-filled baffle loudspeakers from way back in the day, we joke around about that with Wharfedale. We're not going to be shipping sand-filled speakers around the world. If he's talking about panels under quad, maybe the quad electrostats, which is another speaker I keep here at home as a reference. Those were just reintroduced in the latest X version. So those are shipping now. So if he's talking about quad panels, which is a sister company to Wharfedale, those are available.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, I was doing some looking ahead of time. So Wharfedale, the Diamond series has been around since what, like the 80s? Is that right?
1982.
1982. All right. So it looks like it's kind of grown over time. So is that kind of a staple? That have they always been the affordable speaker in their lineup? Is that kind of the goal of it?
Yeah, and in the States, at least, that was like the biggest splash for Wharfedale in the 80s and 90s was the Diamond series. That's what they were really famous for. And so now we're on the 15th version in like 43, 44 years. That's pretty impressive staying power for a range of products. But I mean, Wharfedale goes all the way back to the 1930s with Gilbert Briggs, developing drivers, writing books on how to make loudspeakers. I mean, Wharfedale is one of the oldest, if not the oldest at this point, longest continuously running speaker brand in the world.
Wow.
So yeah, his wife making him in the basement. He did.
We don't talk about
really.
her. Yeah, I know.
I think I did a history video on Wharfedale. I think.
Did you do that?
Maybe I haven't released it, but I dug pretty deep into Wharfedale history, and then the Denton I did a little bit. That was introduced like 60 years ago. And then there was a brief period of time. Well, it wasn't brief, but there was a period of time where no Denton, was released. But Denton's been around for a long time.
Yeah, Denton, Linton. Also in Vienna, they showed a new Rosedale, big 15-inch three-way loudspeaker that they're bringing back into production. So, they're going through the back catalog and reissuing and modernizing these products. And I'm just, really happy people are buying big speakers again. Not just because it's not just a trend. I think, people want big sound, and you need big speakers to do that.
Yeah.
Can't
beat physics.
Can't beat physics for sure.
Yeah, that's one of the things we see. People try to get sound bars with small drivers, and you're like, you can't. How are you going to get deep bass out of that? Like, you may get some deep bass, but it's going to be at a volume that you cannot hear.
Well, that's an interesting question because I mean we're all audio nerds here. How many audio nerds do you know that run a small speaker as their main speaker that they listen to all the time? I don't know if I know anybody. I mean, everybody I know has big speakers.
I mean, I know like bookshelves, but I wouldn't classify those as necessarily small, but because they're usually accompanied by a subwoofer in a lot of cases. But yeah, I mean, it's very few. I know that in like the early 2000s, there was like the trend of like everybody wanted like the towered speakers that were super thin. Doesn't quite strike my fancy. So on that same vein, question, is there truly a difference between a home theater speaker and a 2-channel speaker?
No.
Just like a
No.
refrigerator. The
Nope.
refrigerator doesn't know what it's cooling, whether it's beer or
Yeah.
milk. It'll cool it the
Good
same.
good speakers, a good speaker.
Yeah, I'm gonna be a little bit contrarian on it in the fact that it depends on the room size, because output makes a difference depending on a room, because you need like seat to seat variation. Now, once you get to that point, you've got a huge room, and that question kind of goes out the window. But from a performance standpoint, if it plays and it sounds good, it's probably going to be great. But if you start to get into really, really large rooms, output starts to become, a bit of a concern if you want to hit like 80 dB to 110, 120.
Well, you mentioned it earlier, though. I mean, if there's something that has a lot of bloom in like,
Mhm.
I don't know, 400 hertz, 300, 400 hertz, and you don't have, that clarity in, voices, then it's not a good home theater speaker. Like you've got to have a pretty flat mid range. And if you got any bloat on the bottom, you can really cover up voices a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. And in some cases, like, there are different applications, which I'm a home theater nerd, so I can go down this rabbit hole for a while. But there's some cases which I like a speaker with a little bit of a uptick in the upper range, just if it's going behind a screen, because acoustically transparent screens can knock off some of that high frequency range. So it's nice to have it that, and it's a little bit more DSPable, so to speak. But DSP is one of those things that can be, a good word or a bad word for some stereo speakers. But I'm sure we'll probably get some questions on that. So in the meantime, let's go to something a little bit more Wharfedale related. So what are the biggest differences between what's the biggest differences between the Diamond and Step Up Evo lines?
The Evo line. The Evo line is a significant step up. It's more of a trickle down from the Elysian project, which is their flagship. So you get the AMT tweeter, you get a much more robust mid range, better
cabinets.
Yeah, more better damping on the actual materials, both internally and the drivers. So it is and it's still a very high value line for Wharfedale. They wanted to come in and have a really great sound and fit and finish with the Evo, but still retain that Wharfedale musicality. But it's a very, very big step up in terms of clarity and resolution and dynamics and overall cabinet size for each of the speakers, if you look at the equivalent to what they have that they are to the Diamond.
So you guys use a few different like tweeter styles throughout the line, and that's not super usual for a lot of brands. What kind of causes you guys to use those different tweeter lines as you kind of go? It's like you almost go up the range, you change tweeters, and then as you go higher, you go back to the other kind of tweeter. What's the thought process behind that?
Yeah, I actually spoke to Peter Como about that when they debuted Evo and Elysian. And look, honestly, I was concerned at first because Wharfedale is known as a soft dome tweeter brand, and most companies stick with one tweeter type throughout their whole range of products. And when he said, look, the company said I can make the best speaker I've ever developed with the Elysian range, I didn't feel good about using a dome tweeter when I know that there's performance benefits to ribbons and AMTs. Right. And you could buy the most expensive dome tweeter in the world and it still won't outperform those other types of drivers. So that was really the genesis for him to explore using AMTs in the Wharfedale range. I was still a little skeptical because Wharfedale is known for that kind of very forgiving, smoother top end sound. And AMTs in the past have always been a little bit edgy, a little etched and bright. But somehow Peter pulled this off. Of course he did. I mean, he's developed hundreds, if not thousands of speakers throughout his career. So you still get that smoothness, that naturalness, but a lot more openness and clarity and air around the high frequencies with the new AMT drivers. And as Josh said, then they trickled that down with Evo and Aura series, and they've made it really a staple technology in the Wharfedale portfolio of products. So it's worked out.
I had the same concerns as well because historically I've not been a huge fan of ribbons or AMTs, but somehow Peter really kind of smooths it out with while still retaining that air and the detail that the AMT and ribbon technology is known for.
Yeah, well, that's one of the things. It's like there are a lot of AMT and like ribbon style tweeters that they sound entirely different. And it's like that's in your head, you get kind of hooked on one. You're like, okay, I heard this one. I know what that sounds like. So my brain's going to associate that that's what AMT tweeters sound like. And then you listen to another one, it's entirely different. And so it's like it's the engineering kind of around it. It's, you know, just one piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, it's like one cheeseburger is not like all cheeseburgers.
Yeah.
You know, it depends on who's making it, you know?
Yep. Completely agree. So a little bit more general question here. So are the towers pretty wide dispersion, and would you recommend a toe in?
So Wharfedale speakers are voiced to be towed in directly towards the listener. Now, this is all kind of like Randy's saying with burgers, you know, you season to your own personal flavor. But in terms of reference, frequency response, the tweeter should be aimed directly at you. And I think that's especially true with any of the dome mid-range and AMT tweeter product. AMTs, one drawback of AMTs is they have more limited, especially vertical dispersion. So you want those aimed towards you for the most accurate sound. But if you find that's a little too bright for your personal taste, you know, just aim them out a little bit or have them cross in front of you, you know, experiment. Every room and listener is going to be a little different.
Yeah, toe in's almost like a preference. So the reason I don't have these towed in, one is because they look better on camera, not towed in. Sorry. The other thing is that I obviously am listening off axis and backwards. So you know, they're not going to perform the best towed in to a point that's off center with me. But yeah, I mean, generally speaking, towing in a speaker is going to give you a more defined sound stage in the middle, or a center image rather than a sound stage. So it's going to be a smaller sound stage, more defined center, wider. It's going to just, you know, extend out a little bit wider, but it's maybe not going to be as detailed. So it's all a matter of preference. Now, your positioning inside the room does make a big difference, though. They're objectively, you know, how wide your speakers are. It's going to make a big difference. So, well, and Randy, whenever you're testing out a speaker, what are some of your main rules for placement, or do you have rules around that?
No, not really. I mean, generally, I just try to, you know, put them up in the living room is where they usually start. And it is just I throw them up because I want to see, are most people going to be, I am not there's nothing wrong with this. I'm not pull a speaker out all the way into the room, get super centered into it. I want to know if a speaker sounds good, you know, for most people in most situations. And then after that, then I'll start to kind of play around with placement and stuff like that. But, you know, I'm a pragmatic audiophile, I guess, because I want stuff to sound pretty good the way it is. Now, if it's a little bit hot in the top end or the upper mids, then I'll really start to play around because I'm pretty sensitive to that. And so I'll mitigate that with off access, basically. So maybe point them right out into the room, things like that. But what's interesting about the Wharfedale, the Evo, what's the three-way bookshelf? Evo 4.2?
Oh, yeah. You reviewed the 4.2 back in the day.
Yeah. So I can't believe I remember that model number. Anyway, so that's a very kind of atypical height speaker, right? And so you have that huge mid-range, and that was really like if you got that mid-range below or above the ear, you didn't hear the magic. But if you got the stands and you got that mid-range right at your ear, then it was like, whoa, that thing really came alive if you got the height right on those. So in that case, you know, you really do need to get, you know, the stand at least dialed in, because that was, you know, it was a very tall bookshelf speaker.
Yeah, I think that brings up an interesting point of a lot of the Wharfedale line does offer a three-way stand-mounted speaker, which a lot of manufacturers don't, and it does give you that extra just sense of space versus the two-way version.
Yeah, and I'll second Randy's setup. You know, with Evo series, setup pays dividends. Like, it definitely is something you're going to spend a little bit more time with. Diamond series, I mean, honestly, you could plop those just about anywhere and get good sound and not be super critical on setup. It's going to be a bit more flexible with that.
And that's one of the things I feel like I like about Wharfedale as a whole, at least the ones that I've really got to spend time with, is they're not a finicky speaker, and they're almost just like a speaker that you can set down anywhere and enjoy. These I've been playing around with, and low frequency is something that a lot of people, especially an entry level speaker, they want to get the maximum frequency range. I mean, most people do out of a speaker, but the rear port, I was kind of playing around with putting it closer to the wall versus pulling it out, just kind of generally speaker placement rules. And even though it's choked up against the wall, the bass wasn't like boomy and too over the top, which is something that can really happen. You start to get some of that like port noise coming through. But no, I thought they sound great. They're a good full range speaker, and that's exactly what you'd want. I think they go
Most
down.
people don't have a real symmetrical room though, too, especially with the open concept houses that we have now. You may have one side that's not reinforced at all going into a kitchen eating area, and the others, your other speakers right in a corner. So you got to
Yeah,
play
and
around. Everything
yeah.
is, based upon your room and how tall your ceilings are. Do you have wood floors? Do you have carpet? So all that, it's one of those things that everyone's going to kind of mess around with.
Yeah, Wharfedale design speakers very scientifically. They have all the state-of-the-art measuring equipment, and they do anechoic measurements. But one thing I appreciate about Peter is he takes a more holistic approach, where they have a handful of different rooms at the factory where they can test these things, different dimensions, different materials, as Randy said, and they can listen to the speaker prototypes in various real-world environments, close to the wall, far from the wall, big overstuffed furniture, minimal furniture. And then he will take all of that experience and fine tune the crossover, sometimes over hundreds of iterations, to get a good real world result, not just an anechoic result.
Yeah, Peter's really big on listening and then making adjustments as opposed to just measurements.
Yeah.
So that was whenever we had the conversation with him, that was one of the things I think he was talking about. It's like, well, and this is something just good in general for people to know. You don't listen in an anechoic chamber.
Mm-hmm.
Like, anechoic measurements are great in theory, but your room, it's not going to respond like it does in there. It's going to immediately change, especially like in the low frequencies, which are almost 100% driven by the room. So there are some things there are some things you can do to kind of compensate for that, but DSP is one of those. But not everybody likes that in the 2-channel side, and it can be a little tough to implement. But in that same vein, John, so we discussed power of the driving speakers, but what are the brands that complement the Diamond Series signature well, or sound signature well?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to say Audiolab for sure. I mean, Audiolab is a sister brand. They use it as a reference point at the factory. So that those two things are going to complement each other well. That's going to cover your 2-channel audio needs. For home theater, I mean, there's such a wide range of good stuff out there. I mean, quite frankly, Diamond Series is kind of designed to go with almost anything. It's very kind of brand and electronics agnostic. One of the, I guess, criticisms some people would have with Diamond, it's very forgiving on the top end. It's not a bright sounding series, but that allows you to partner it with a wide variety of electronics. So if you end up buying I don't even know what these things cost right now, $500 or $1,000 home theater receiver that maybe doesn't have the best audiophile sonic signature, it's not going to rip your head off driving a Diamond Series speaker. It's so forgiving. You can drive it with virtually any brand of electronics.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and if you do have a brighter room, like without a lot of treatment, you're going to be really thankful that it doesn't have a lot of top end, because that's one of the things that people get a brighter speaker and their rooms are just completely reflective, and it makes a really harsh sound. But we've got some other ones here. So the Super Lintons have, for the most part, been described as a completely different speaker than the Lintons, rather than the upgraded version. Comparing the Rosedale to the Super Lintons, and probably more realistic, the Dovetail, would you say that there are a lot of sound signature similarities between the three? Is this mostly an issue of scale, or the Rosedale kind of different animal altogether?
The Rosedale, they all share some similarities, and I would say the Super Linton, Dovedale, Rosedale are probably more similar. The Linton, almost kind of on its own, has a very unique sound signature, which has proven to be, I mean, it's been our best seller since 2019, like by far and away the best selling Wharfedale speaker. There's something about the Linton. It's warm, it's kind of vintagey sounding, yet still, good clarity. people seem to be really drawn to that. With the Super Linton, they added a quite a bit more transparency and air to the top end, which was, I saw a comment around here, that was one criticism they had on the Linton, like, oh, I want more detail. Well, that's who the Super Linton's for. It definitely adds a bit more hi-fi audiophile sonic signature without going overboard. The Dovedale goes even further than that, and the Dovedale is a very big loudspeaker, so you get a lot more bass impact, a lot more deep bass. The Rosedale, in some ways, is a different kind of animal. I mean, that thing has a 15-inch bass driver, and when I heard it in Vienna a couple of weeks ago, I mean, it just reminded me, there's something about a big woofer. It's not that it pounds harder, just the texture of the bass was so much more lifelike. And it's what you were saying earlier, Nick, you can't beat physics. So when you have a big 15-inch driver, a big cabinet, you start to get lifelike scale in tone. So the Rosedale, there's some similarities, but it is a different animal.
Yeah, there's just an effortlessness to a large speaker that just doesn't have to try very hard. And you'll find that across a lot of manufacturers when you see a big giant speaker and you expect to be kind of blown, back of the room, and it's not that at all. It just has this very natural effortlessness to it, and it's in its overall presentation. I mean, they can still, you can still hammer with it, and the speakers will party, but that's not what is the most impressive thing about a speaker like, the Rosedale.
Very cool. So let's see. We've got a few other questions on here. We've got about 9 minutes, so we got some time. So let's see. You mentioned towing in, but in a theater setup where you have multiple viewers and listeners, how much would you tow them in? Do you guys want me to take this one?
Sure.
All right. So generally speaking, you still want to, it's all about angles and distances, but still, if you can maintain like a nice, almost equilateral triangle inside of a theater room, it's ideal. I still recommend towing in because if you have a primary seat, you're still going to get dispersion to some of your outer seats. Now, if you're going to be like less than an equilateral triangle, you're going to be something like closer to like a 20-degree angle off. Won't get super into angles, but at that point, you want to go completely straight just because you don't want it towed in at an area where nobody's going to be sitting. So short answer, if you're an equilateral triangle or wider, tow it in. If you're less than an equilateral triangle or getting into a pretty narrow triangle, just keep it completely flat. So that's my take on it. Randy, you're right in the midst of doing your theater. Are you towing in or are you going straight out?
Well, so I'm kind of running a hybrid setup. So there'll be more of almost a permanent, home theater setup with the center, the right and left, and then the Atmos and the surrounds. But then I'll still have, 2-channel stuff. So the 2-channel stuff won't always be part of, the home theater. Sometimes it will be, but most of the times it won't be. So I would say that the home theater is not going to be quote unquote like perfect and ideal as far as the right and the left speaker. Center speaker will be locked in though. But I'm not going to sweat it. I want the room to be, inviting. Like, I don't want to go crazy on where the speakers are at. I'd rather this be a room that, I want to use, the family wants to use, and things like that. And sometimes you just have to make a few compromises when it comes to sound. But let's be honest, it's going to sound better than 99% of anybody else's, room, or, if they have a sound bar or something. So I try not to sweat that too much. I try to get the best performance while not impacting the family in a negative way. That's kind of where I live with speakers and stuff like that.
Yep. That there's another saying I always have. It's form and function. And sometimes the ideal functioning way is way different than the ideal form way. So, it's a balance of performance and what fits your lifestyle. So, it almost certainly your lifestyle will impact you more than your performance will. Not in all cases, but so we got, and this is more of a comment. This is an interesting one too. So learning so much today. Does Audio Advice Live have the same type of atmosphere? So I think all of you guys have been to Audio Advice Live. What do you think?
Yes, but even better because you can actually listen and not just listen to us pontificate. You can listen to product and music and theaters.
It's less pontification, more having a good time and listening.
Yep. completely agree. And yeah, so again, Audio Advice Live, shameless plug, August 7th to the 9th in Raleigh, North Carolina. If you can make it out, absolutely come out, because we're going to have a lot of different setups. John, do you guys know what you're bringing yet?
We do. So we have 3 rooms this year. The main system is going to include the new Legion for our Wharfedale. So the flagship Wharfedale loudspeaker until the Rosedale comes out, I guess, with an Audiolab 9000 series driving it. So that's the top of the line Audiolab gear. And then I believe in the second system is going to be Denton 1S and some more Audiolab, and then a Mission system, which is another sister company in Wharfedale. We'll have a Mission, probably the 770s or 700s, I'm not sure yet, and some Mission electronics with that. So 3 great systems, all different price points. People will be able to hear all of them.
I believe we're even going to have a pair of Astons there for people to listen to too. From Wharfedale.
Cool.
Very cool. And Randy, are you coming out this year?
Yeah. I mean, you've asked me to do something, Nick.
I know. And that's why I was about to shamelessly plug. I'm like, wow,
Yeah.
big surprise. I got a job for you. So yeah,
Yeah.
Randy's going to be on one of our deep dive panel sessions. So I'll save the topic. We're going to be doing a whole series of live streams around Audio Advice Live, kind of talking about the experiences, talking about some of the deep dive sessions and things. But yeah, you're going to have to get a chance to, you're going to have a chance to hear Randy talk some more.
Well, and it's something that I'm super passionate about, because I think oftentimes as audiophiles, we think we want the best sound, but what we actually want is the best experience. And so there's a lot of things that, a lot of people don't think about. And a lot of it, is behavioral and psychological rather than actual performance based. So it's something that I'm super passionate about, and I've made multiple videos kind of touching on it. So I'm super excited. I'm going to have slides and everything. It's going to be very professional.
Wow.
Randy's making
Yeah.
a slideshow. He's going to put some animations on there for us.
It's going to be
awesome.
It's a lot of 3D modeling, stuff like that.
Well, I'm absolutely excited. So, like I said, August 7th through 9th. So make sure you come out. And then I think that, well, we're going to have some other big names there. Stay tuned. We'll talk about those towards the end.
Pete Townsend.
But Pete Townsend, no, legally we cannot say. No, I'm just kidding. Probably not, but there's always a chance, right? So let's see. We've got some best question winners here. So y'all get ready. We're gonna go ahead and start announcing some of the winners before we sign off on this stream. So for the best question and for the bookshelf speakers, the winner is going to be Timothy Brown. So Timothy, reach out to us. We'll get you set up with your new. Those are the Wharfedale. Those are the 12s. So which the 12.0 eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah, or 12.0. Yeah. So congrats. And then for our big winner, sorry, let me get my drum roll going here, and I got to find the winner. Iran Schweiger, Schweiger in New York, USA. So reach out to us. We'll get you set up with your brand new home theater package, and then we can work with you on a receiver. So awesome. Well, John, Randy, Josh, thanks so much for jumping on today. And audience, thanks so much for joining in. We'll catch you next month whenever we start our Audio Advice live stream giveaways. But until then, thanks everyone.
Thanks, guys.